As we continue to get further and further advanced with technology, machine learning, AI, all of these really great tools that are coming forward in manufacturing as well as business, we have to figure out how we step away from just simply making cases of mayonnaise every day and how we learn to embrace some of these tools to help make people's jobs easier. As we do that, we're able to free up some of their time to then start focusing on other, maybe more transformational or productive uses of their time.
We also now are able to see what's going on in another sections of the factory through this system that we've been implementing on the technology. We can open our laptops and see how the different equipments are performing, if they are in the need of maintenance or if something is not performing correctly.
That idea that there are some things that women just aren't suitable to do. Either they're not good enough, or they're not clever enough, or well, these are just really things for men to do. Now, that differs between different countries as to how that plays out, but it is a big obstacle. And when it comes to the positions of power in a country, whether it's politics or economics, one finds that the barriers to women are greater than the barriers of entry to men. So women often lack confidence, partly because they absorb the stereotypes themselves. So more to help women build confidence, more that role models that women see you can succeed, that makes a huge difference. "97 countries have actual laws which make it more difficult for women to access finance. Those laws could be changed. There's a lot more that we could do, or the finance industry could do, to start tailoring their products to the needs of women. For example, women often prefer short-term rather than long-term loans. There are still countries in the world that require the sort of security for loans which women don't actually have the legal right to possess. Finance seems to have been devised with a certain male model in mind, and it doesn't necessarily work for a female model who has other demands upon their time, including, of course, the demands of unpaid care. I mean, I'm not saying men and boys don't do some care, but the difference is clear. So more that we can do to help sustain women by providing good childcare, by providing good and safe elder care. These things make a difference. These are things that both corporations and governments can certainly help upon. The foundation was set up to help women entrepreneurs in low and middle income countries to set up, sustain and grow their businesses, to be drivers of development in their country and to be able to make their own choices. Technology is still such a crucial tool that can enable women to get access to the skills which otherwise they might not have access to the networks and the markets that they may not otherwise be able to find, and of course also to find mentoring and support from all over the world. Time and time again, we see that if we look at is it worthwhile investing in women, we find that women do invest more back, not only back into the businesses, but back into the families, back into the community. The intergenerational and community benefits from supporting women business owners is clear.
There's a small, incredibly small window of opportunity. What do you do with that opportunity? Do you find a way in which to engage with the key actors? Do you find a way in which to not just lay down conditions, but show them a pathway in which they can deal with disorder? I think one of the key changes is that it's increasingly competitive. Traditionally, you'd have gone to the West, and the West was seen as the sort of the guardians of international peace and security, shaping the international law, shaping the crisis management tools. But now in every region you look, in every conflict you're looking at, it's not just one institution and one or two diplomats and envoys, a multitude of envoys, multitude of mediation centers. I don't subscribe to the view that the US is on decline or the West is on decline, but its influence is increasingly limited. There are others who have leverage, who have pressures, and who have financial heft to shape conflicts as well. And I think one of the biggest changes to peacemaking also is the technology that we're seeing of warfare. So drones, remote warfare, the combination of AI and drones. And we're seeing the devastating effect of that in Gaza, for example, in Sudan, in Ethiopia as well. And that really does make peacemaking more difficult, more fraught, and at a time also where actors also don't necessarily believe in the traditional tools of peacemaking as well. But increasingly, it's very hard to find good examples of early warning and early action and preventative diplomacy, because in the end, most actors spend more time reacting to these crises rather than preventing these crises. If you want a peace process to stick, if you want it to be viable, if you want it to lead to a more sustainable outcome, you cannot ignore the local dynamics, you can't ignore historical, long-term grievances, you can't ignore the various communities, and you can't stitch an outcome from the outside. We are watching refugee displacement, people displaced from Somalia, for example, from South Sudan due to floods and droughts. If you look across the Sahel, Nigeria, into Kenya, as a result of tensions, as a result of climate and diversification, you're seeing a competition now for resource over land use between farmers and herders. But this is transnational, this is universal, this is existential, and we have to plan for tomorrow. And I think a lot of people who are focused on climate security, that is the message, plan now for the future. And it's partly why we've invested our time in trying to look at that link between climate security, displacement, and conflict as well.